Then there's the lovely Elizabeth Banks.
Yeah,
She is Effie Trinket. Effie
she
Trinket was
is.
in the book, but she did not truly exist until Elizabeth Banks Effie Trinketed it. Welcome to Books Just Want to Have Fun, the podcast where we dive into the world of books and bring you honest reviews, insightful discussions, and a wheel spin full of randomness. I'm Pamela, and today we are chatting about the Hunger Games trilogy. This one will be spoiler full because honestly, if you're listening to this, you probably know everything about it anyway. And Jen is here with me today because Jen is a Hunger Games fan and has finally convinced me to read all the books. Welcome, Jen.
Yes. Oh, I am so excited. I have been waiting since 2008 for you to read these books. I am so excited that you have finally read them. Um, you're
I'm glad I
currently reading
finally read them.
Sunrise. Oh, you're we're only so people know we're
I'm
only going to
on.
talk about the original.
Yes, I've read. What
Okay.
just happened to my brain?
So
What?
you've read four and a half of the books, but we're only talking about the original trilogy today, right?
Yes. I'm currently on chapter. I've finished chapter 13 of Sunrise on the Reaping.
Mhm.
What fully prompted me starting to read The Hunger Games? I don't even
I
remember.
was shocked. I was shocked when you told me because so you decided and then all of a sudden you were reading them because so it was after.
Is it because Sunrise on the Reaping came out and I was like, you know what?
Yes.
Fuck it. I'll
Yeah,
just read it.
because
Like,
so I read the book and I was losing my mind and then some of the casting started coming out and I was telling you some of the people that were going to be in it and I was losing my mind talking about it and I was like, "You have until November of 2026 to read them." And then
and
all of a sudden
apparently
you
I
were like,
did.
"Bet."
But
Yeah.
I was delightfully surprised after having listened to the first book. And I was like, yep, Jen and Bridget were right. I've been sleeping on this.
So, before we get into talking about the books, did I ever tell you about how I started reading these? Have I ever told you that story? I don't know if I have.
No. How did you start reading
So,
these?
so I read these as they came out. And so book 1 came out in 2008. And so just think for a minute what it was like finding books in 2008. There was no Bookstagram, there was no book talk. People might have been talking about books on like YouTube, but for the most part there wasn't really social media. I think we
Yeah.
just had
We had
Facebook
Facebook.
at the time.
Yeah.
But, like, it that was more for showing, like, your partying pictures. Like, people weren't we weren't having insightful conversations on social media yet about books.
Absolutely not.
So, um so again, 2008, we got Entertainment Weekly magazine every week at my house, at my parents' house. One thing I loved about those magazines was reading the book reviews.
Mm.
In the back, there were always book reviews, and so I remember when I don't remember the time of year that it came out, but I remember, going to the back and reading the book reviews and seeing the cover, this original Hunger Games cover, and reading the description. And I was like, oh, that sounds really interesting. I was like, next time I go to the bookstore, I'm going to pick that up.
And what
Because again, I
is
wasn't really.
the description? What is the back blurb? Read it for us, Jennifer.
Okay. Well, I don't remember what the review said, but I
Oh, yeah,
will
no, there's
read.
no way to remember that.
Yeah, but I'll read what this says. Let's see. In the ruins of a place known as North America lies the nation of Panem, a shining capital surrounded by 12 outlying districts. The capital is harsh and cruel and keeps the districts in line by forcing them all to send one boy and one girl between the ages of 12 and 18 to participate in the annual Hunger Games, a fight to the death on live TV. 16-year-old Katniss Everdeen regards it as a death sentence when she steps forward to take her sister's place in the games. But Katniss has been close to dead before, and survival for her is second nature. Without really meaning to, she becomes a contender. But if she is to win, she will have to start making choices that weigh survival against humanity and life against love.
I feel like
I would pick this up now if I just read that.
Yeah, but I
Like,
also feel
not
like that's not the book.
Oh, I disagree, but we'll get into that in a second. I gotta finish telling my
Oh,
story.
yes, 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 yes.
So I read this review and I was like, "Oh, I need to get that." And then of course I didn't write it down. And I go to the bookstore sometime later and I'm like, "Oh, what was that book that I need to read? I can't remember." So I walk in and there was a Harry Potter display, so of course I walk over to it. There was one singular copy of this book that was just laying on that display that somebody had just discarded. So,
Oh.
it was almost like the universe being, because at that time, the series was over, all the Harry Potter books were done, so it was, "Here is a new series for you to fall in love with and emotionally destroy you." It was like passing
Oh.
yeah, passing it along, and I didn't think of it that profoundly then because I didn't know how much I would love these books,
Right, yeah.
but looking back on it now, I'm like, that was just such a perfect way for me to find this series and fall in love with it and read it. Yeah, so I've been reading them since they came out. But yeah, so that's how I started reading them in 2008, which feels like a lifetime ago.
Yeah. 2008
So
was a lifetime ago.
I know that Suzanne Collins took a lot of like Survivor. She was a big fan of the show Survivor.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
and to, and so I know that that was one of her inspirations for the book. I don't remember the rest of her inspiration for it. She doesn't do a lot of press. She's very private.
Which is
She doesn't really do any signings or anything. She's very private. I think she's from New England. Um, but yeah, she doesn't do a lot of press and to talk about it all, but she only likes to write her books, it seems as though, when she has something to say. So,
love that.
yeah. Just especially thinking about when like, around the other times the other 2 books came out, she always has something to say.
All right.
Um,
So for the people
so
who have been living under a rock, because
I
I,
don't
even though,
yeah.
so the movie came out on Jen's birthday, and we went to see the movie, The Hunger Games.
Mhm.
I was not a super fan, which after having now read the book, I understand why I wasn't a super fan because I was missing a lot of not important information because all the important information was in the movie, but I was missing a lot of that like
There's a
important to
lot of
the
nuance that you
reader.
get. Yes.
Yeah, like the 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 stuff that makes the book what it is. So after having read the book, I'm like, "Oh, wait." And then I watched the movie again and I was like, "Okay, so this is better now that I know things."
Mhm.
I also got to feel a little superior because I was like, "I know how this goes." It's been forever since that movie came out, but whatever. I thought once you turned 18, you weren't in it. Turns out you're 18 and you are still in it. You're out when you're 19. So you get one name entry into the raffle, if you will, for every year you've been eligible for the Hunger Games. And then every time you sign up for extra food, your payment for it is putting your name into the Hunger Games again. So Katniss has her name in countless amounts of times because she's put her name in to get extra food for her family. The same with Gail. Um, Someone who comes from the town and not the seam probably doesn't have their name in as many extra times. Like, so PETA probably only
Mhm.
has his name in as many times as he is years old.
Yeah. So at this point, at age 16, Katniss's name is going to be in there 20 times. So
That's how
Prim
many times Haymitch had his name in when he was put into the Hunger Games.
Yep. So Katniss is in there is
So
20
many
times.
pairs.
Prim is only in once, and so Gale is 18. I didn't realize he was 2 years older for some reason. I thought they were the same age, but
I don't
I'm
remember
complete
knowing how old Gail was.
I completely forgot about that because it's in here. So,
So Gale was in his last
eight.
year.
Yes, so his name is in there 42 times because he has a
Eh,
family of 5.
mm,
So he's been putting them in there quite a bit.
so he needs to play the
Um,
lottery because
yeah,
how he had his name in there, the odds have ever been in his favor.
they've been in his favor.
I mean, the odds were just not in Prim's favor. Her name's in there one time, and then there's people in
I
this
know.
district whose names probably are also in there 40 times.
Well, even at age 12, there are kids that do have their names in multiple times because when Katniss was 12, she immediately had her names
Yeah.
in 4 times because
And she says
she
she doesn't let Prim
immediately
go for Tesseract.
no, she's not letting Prim do this. So Katniss is she's so she's taken on so much at such a young age. Her father died in a mining accident
She's incredibly
and,
sacrificial.
yes, and, her mother completely shuts down. And so Katniss is she's really the breadwinner. She's the one that's holding this family together and she's like, "I will make sure that I do everything in my power to save you, to do everything that I can." And, doesn't let Prim put in for the Tezzeret. She goes out and illegally hunts so her family has food or she can trade it for other things that they need. Um,
There's a fence around the district, and District 12 is the smallest district, I'm being led to
and the
believe,
poorest,
and the
and the
poorest,
poorest, yes.
probably because it's small, but it's coal mining. So, like, basically, it feels like it's the size of a large town, and that's their whole
Mhm.
district. Whereas when you read the books, you discover that like the other districts are the size of like several states. So
Yes.
like District 12 is like everybody knows everybody because they all live in, like something the size of like Raleigh, North Carolina. Whereas like everyone
And
else,
some people say that that's about where it would be. I
I would
keep seeing
imagine like
different
West
maps.
Virginia, because like coal mining.
Yes. People say that they think it's very much like Appalachia.
Yeah. Um,
So,
but
and
then
so
like
there
the
is
other
there is
districts
that
are like
fence,
the
yeah.
size of Texas. Like
Yes. And so there is this fence that's supposed to be electric, but it's never turned on. So Katniss
especially like in
sneaks
this
under
one
it.
section, there's like a hole. Yeah, so you're not allowed to hunt. You're only allowed to do what your district does. So
Mhm.
they're only really allowed to coal mine and then do the superfluous jobs in a coal mining town. Peeta's family, they're bakers, right? Like you need bread, so there's bakers, and which so all the people that do the superfluous jobs are the quote unquote rich people. Katniss's mom
Mhm.
came from an apothecary's family, so like she used to be rich until she married a coal miner. Like so it's very like class system almost. Like they talk about it's the seam versus the town.
Yeah, and Gail's mom does laundry.
Yeah.
She takes in clothing and does laundry for people and everything. So yeah,
Well,
it's a
according to
very,
audiobooks,
very
her name is
poor town.
pronounced Hazel, which is why I asked
Hazel,
you how it
okay.
was spelled. Because reading the
I'll have
book,
to
I would
scan
just
back
think it was
through.
a fancy Hazel. Like the way you
Yeah,
texted
I
me that her name is spelled, I would have, reading the books, I would have still read Hazel. I just would have read it like it was spelled fancy. I never would have
yeah.
changed the pronunciation, but
Well,
Hazel.
it's funny. Susan Collins does a lot of very different sounding names, and sometimes I wonder if that's on purpose. Because sometimes when you're reading a book and there's a name that's similar to someone that and you're like, oh, there's a name of there's a character. I love the book Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. The main character's named Justin. I had a Justin in my life that drove me absolutely up the wall, so I'm like, oh, and I had to like try to not think of him when I heard that name. And since this book is so dark, I wonder if she purposely give such obscure names so
That way
nobody can,
no
like.
one is like, well, my name is Peter. Oh, but the character's PETA.
Yeah.
I just figured it was because he was a baker's kid. And so many names in these books are named, they're from the Diamond District. They're named
Yes.
Glimmer.
Well, I think that's part of it too, but sometimes I also think it's so that maybe people don't you can't even be like, "Oh, my name's in this book. I'm one of the children that dies." You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're probably
So
onto
yeah,
something
I
there.
want I mean, that's what I think. I mean, especially looking further down the line at some of the names that you see in some of the different books as we go on, it's like, where are we getting some of these names? There are a couple that are, quote unquote normal, but I feel like for the most part, they're all very different names. They aren't names that we hear very often.
Yeah.
Um, but so it's so Katniss volunteers for her sister, even though she only has that one name in there. The odds were in Little Prim's favor, and it's
Yeah.
I still sometimes wonder, are any of these really rigged, or is it truly random?
So
You
I've
know what I
seen in
mean?
my
It's
random spoilers on TikTok, and it's, oh, well, Prim was always supposed to die. And it's like, but why? But why? What would the Capitol be waking up and thinking, oh, yeah, Primrose Everdeen, like what? Like her mom looked at me funny one day?
well,
Why would they on purpose want, did they know Katniss was going to volunteer as tribute? And then at that same moment, like again, why Katniss then?
so since we're talking about kind of all three books here, I feel like we can kind of jump around a little bit. When we meet Plutarch, um, he's planning the 75th quarter quell, and realistically, he's not supposed to know how the tributes are picked. Um, the when Snow reads the envelope, it's
Hmm.
supposed to be a surprise for everybody. Realistically, it's supposed to be something that's just opened in that moment, this was something that was decided,
Oh,
75 years
they,
ago.
yeah, they say like there's a whole box full of envelopes with quells planned out for like centuries.
Exactly. So, and then there are a few different theories, and then it's also tied to a deleted scene in I don't remember if it's actually a flashback in Mockingjay or if it is a flash or if I think it's a flashback in Mockingjay to the Hunger Games that kind of like makes you really think. So there's a flashback deleted scene where Plutarch goes and puts something in the envelope. He basically it seems like he
Mhm.
is switching it out to be like we're picking from these victors
Oh, see, I got that
because
the conspiracy was that Snow was mad at Katniss, so he
there are a
switched the
couple.
envelopes. Like, so like this would have been an envelope. Like someone did plan out that like you
Yep.
would be being reaped from previous victors, but like it was maybe 175, and Snow was like, "We're gonna make it 75," which he'd have to open all the envelopes in order to know. But
There are a couple of different theories. That is one of the theories is that he does it because yeah, he's pissed at Katniss because of the way that she won her Hunger Games by basically
mhm,
defying the Capitol. Sorry, I'm gonna give me a second before you say anything. Let me like do a loop around. So with Prims, there people are saying that they think it was rigged because Plutarch has been planning this revolution
mhm, mhm, mhm.
and they wanted somebody that would be strong that they think really could stand up. And and so looking at all the different districts, I think they kind of knew it had to be somebody from a poorer district that would want to stand up, and they could see that Katniss would be somebody who would volunteer, who would step up. And I think it would have been different if she was reaped herself rather than volunteering. She would have a different there would be a lot more behind her. She's stepping up to save her sister, and then it's like, okay, now you still got to work now to save everything so she doesn't get picked again. And so that's why some people are thinking that it was rigged because they knew that Katniss would never let Prim go into these games because these revolutions have been, which we find out later, have been planned for a long time. This is not a new thing that they're trying to do here. There have been We find out in in some
So
of
you're
these.
meaning that like the reason Plutarch would have needed to change the Hunger Games to being previous victors being reaped was to prevent the likelihood that Prim might get reaped again?
No, I'm saying that the 74th was rigged to get Katniss to volunteer because she would have never let her go in. And then
So that brings me back to, but
then
why Katniss?
no, because I think Haymitch might have had something to do with it.
He is
Um,
very, now reading Sunrise on the Reaping, like the parallels between the two of them are insane.
yes, so I think Haymitch might have had something to do with it, um, with getting her in there. And this is also tough because I've read all of them, so I'm trying to, like, not be too spoilery, but there is a lot of theories that, this is rigged from the beginning because we know that the rebellion that happens in Catching Fire, that's not new. You don't like, a rebellion like
Yeah.
that doesn't happen over. It has to be planned for a long time to figure out how things work, and there's a lot of things that have to be set in motion.
Mhm.
So there had to have been a rigging in, in the 74th to kind of lead into the events of the 75th. Um, and so I do think that there was some rigging happening, and I also think that because I know that rigging happens later. I also have a hard time thinking that Suzanne Collins would have allowed them to even shoot the scene with Plutarch switching the cards if she wasn't okay with that idea being out there.
Well, yeah, I
You
mean,
know what
but
I
that leads
mean?
to like how was that a deleted scene because she wasn't okay with it? How much do they run by anybody? Like the reason it's a deleted scene is because she was like, mm-mm. You know what I mean? Like they might have, it might be a deleted scene for a different reason than,
And the scene, like, it's so quick, I also don't know if people would have gotten the wrong idea and then have had
yeah.
different thoughts about Plutarch because he is on the side of the rebels, and I don't know if that scene might have made people question his alliance. So that could have been why it was deleted. We don't know why it was. I just know that
Yeah.
that scene exists.
So, after surviving the 74th Hunger Games, Katniss Everdeen and Peeta Mellark returned to District 12 as victors. And so the 75th, which is where we meet Katniss and Peeta in Catching Fire, supposed to be safe living in the victors' village, um, they are supposed to be safe for the rest of their lives, which, dun dun dun, their children aren't. I didn't assume that. I, having been a person who only saw the first movie and then several years later saw all the other movies, still somehow assumed that their children would have been safe. And it wasn't until reading the books that I realized their children were not safe. And I was like, what the heck is the point?
Mm-mm.
So, like, you
Yeah.
were just, you won. So, like, what if you won at 18? You were safe anyway. What do you
Yeah.
get besides food for the rest of, I mean, in District 12, like, that matters, right? Food for the rest of your life. And in a lot of the districts, that are poor that would matter for the rest of your life that you and your family get to live like so like having children your children wouldn't grow up hungry right because they'd live in the victor's village with you but like it just in my mind I assumed your children's names wouldn't go into the Hunger Games thing. So it turns out that's not what it is. And Katniss, genius that she is like, I'm never having children. Because why would you want to do that? Why would you want to watch your children go into the Hunger Games? Unbelievable.
I think they actually prefer when the richer districts win so they can be like, "Look, you have to be a higher level in order to
You
do
have
this,"
to
and then they're
be obsessed with the capital in order to look what happens when you love the capital.
they're stomping down on all of these smaller districts and
Yeah.
everything, and,
But the smaller
you
districts have
know
been smaller, having read the prequels. The smaller districts have been the smaller districts like the whole time,
Yes, and they're
which
trying
I
to
just
make
think
sure
is
that
so fascinating.
they're working on kind of keeping them poor, because if there are more winners in those victors' villages, they might find different ways of, like, even stimulating the economy, because the victors get like monthly winnings. They could, hire people in town to do different things for them, put money back in, and I don't think they want that.
Yeah.
I really they want to keep those poor districts poor.
Hmm.
And I on but again, it is like, to them it's reality TV, and they do
That part is insane,
like
where it's like everyone is watching and it's like forced reality TV. So no one watches any TV ever. And if they do, if the TV is on, it's all capital television. It's all capital
Mhm.
propaganda. Like,
And yeah, and like, and thinking about how it's reality TV,
mm,
I still just find it so bizarre the way that PETA, shy little PETA, just so easily fell into the lovable role. He immediately kind of became a capital darling, learned how to work the camera, learned how to kind of work a room. Um, and I do believe his feelings for Katniss are real,
yeah.
but, like, the way that he chose to bring them up in the interviews at the Capitol, that they're having at the Capitol before the game, saying, "Oh, the girl that I like is here with me, so it doesn't matter. I'm not gonna see her again after this." To know to bring that up and to see, like, kind of what
So
the
I
crowd's
think that
reaction
he
is.
really did have a crush on her. Like, I know that
Oh,
we're
I
supposed to think.
absolutely think
I
so.
know that we're
No, I
supposed to think that
do.
it was just him being smart, which he was.
No.
He absolutely, and that's a theme in the books is that like PETA always knows what to say. And that's amazing. Like there are times where like Katniss is off on her own and she's like, well, PETA would know what to say here. And it's very obvious that PETA just has like this natural charisma, right? But like I
Mhm.
really do think that he was just like, you know what? Like I'm about to die. I might as well just tell the whole world that I have a crush on Katniss. I think he really did. And I
Oh,
think it
and I
just it
agree.
ended up working in his favor.
But yeah, I agree that he had those feelings. I know that they were real, but the fact that he kind of used those as a tactic for himself in the games to kind of make him more likable, that's just it was just so surprising to me. I just didn't see that. I didn't see that coming
I think I just kind
from
of like
him.
assumed it was off camera talk, well, off page talk with Haymitch. Because like
Oh,
when he goes to do his thing on his own, we know that like, Haymitch's goal, we learn at the end, like Haymitch's goal the whole time was to keep Katniss alive. And so I think knowing that PETA was going to lean into that, like Haymitch kind of rolled with that too. And it's kind of
yeah.
depressing to like, find out that, I mean, we might have found it out in the movie, but like in the book, it's even more depressing because you spend more time with the characters. And it was kind of an emotional load that you got at the end of the book too, of finding out that Haymitch picked one. Like every year that Haymitch was a mentor, he was given two children and he basically picked one, which probably leads to your whole Plutarch planned it. They really thought to be like, no, this time we're really going to make them friends. In 25
Mhm.
years or in 74 years, no one
Yeah.
thought to be like, let's make it be a couple. Like,
Well, yeah, I mean, we know we do see we do know that in, like, Catching Fire, um, Snow makes reference to it, and then we see it physically in the movie, that they kind of have spies and
yeah.
cameras, and they know what's going on in the districts. And so since Plutarch works for the Capitol, part of me wonders, is he, like, doing a little bit of spying and trying to see who he thinks might be his Mockingjay?
Well, and for Plutarch being so important, he wasn't in the first book. I got to the end of the first book and I texted you and I was like, where was Plutarch?
Feel like he might have been. very briefly mentioned. Even though the Capitol wants everybody to, like, love and be obsessed with the victors, they don't want them to love and be obsessed with Katniss and Peeta.
Yeah.
Because they don't because they're that sign of rebellion. Because I mean, going back to when they won the games, because they dangle that carrot of, towards the end of their game saying, "Hey, 2 people can win if you're from the same district."
Yeah.
And Katniss finds Peeta out in the woods, and she nurses him back to semi-health, and they're able to get down, and go through that horrible ordeal and have it be only the 2 of them for then
That does, like,
them to come
confuse me because,
on
like,
and
for
say,
being the Hunger Games, most of the movie, like, wasn't the Hunger Games. Like, there was so much like, when you watch the movies, you think that, like, the whole event maybe took place in, like, 24 hours, but when you read the books, it's like, that was, like, a full-on week at least.
"Oh, yeah." It's
Like
such a long process, yeah, especially because, well, like, there's all the trainings, and then there's that, like, opening parade and all of this stuff. It's a multi-week thing, and I feel like
even when they're in the
and we'll
arena, like, Katniss and
it's so
Peeta were
much
probably
longer,
in
yeah.
that little cave for, like, 2 days, and then, like, in the movie, it looks like they were there for, like, an hour.
Well, also, when Katniss gets, when she gets stung by all those tracker jackers,
Yeah,
and, and Rue is taking care of her, she even says, "You were out for a couple days."
yeah.
And she was changing her leaves to help get all the venom out and everything. So it's so much
That's a
longer than
theory
you
I saw
think.
on TikTok, is that if Rue hadn't helped Katniss, Rue would have won the Hunger Games.
She might have,
'Cause
yeah.
she would have done, like, a spoiler alert for people who haven't read any of the other books, but she would have done, like, a Y risk. She would have just waited until everybody was gone. No one would have found her up in her tree.
Yeah, and that is what some of them kinda try to do, is to just, you know,
Like,
stay apart,
Foxface
but I think, yeah, like, yeah, a lot of them do
Foxface
that, like,
probably honestly would have won.
she might have, because Rue wouldn't have killed anyone,
Right.
but they needed Rue and Katniss had to come together to destroy everything that capital, those, like, those district, the
Mhm.
careers, they had to destroy their stash.
Yes.
Like, there's no way that somebody from that career group wasn't going to win if
Yeah.
Katniss and Rue didn't destroy it. So they had to come together in that sense. So I think Rue did have a very, very good chance, but because they had that stash, that
Right.
that's what was gonna work against her. I think she probably would have died more of, like, the elements rather than somebody getting her, because she was going to easily be able to keep away from other people. So, I do think while the alliance was wonderful
Mhm.
between Katniss and Rue, it was so sweet. I love that friendship. I cry every time Rue dies.
But, like,
Um, but
Katniss would have
it need
had to eventually have killed Rue, or Rue would have had to eventually kill Katniss, which I think is why a
yeah.
lot of people try not to have, like
Well, yeah, that's kinda
why
why
can't I think
Katniss
of the
just
word?
goes off on her own, an alliance.
Yeah, that's why I think, like, a lot of them try not to, but, like, I would never wanna be in an alliance with the careers, which amazing how long they've been calling them the careers, like, they were career tributes before, like, it would have even been a career to be a career tribute, but whatever.
It's like, it's illegal to train, yet that's what they call them, are the careers.
Yeah, it's not like you're led to believe that, like, Katniss just calls them that. The poorer districts are like, "Oh, the career tributes," but, like, the capital calls them the career tributes. So it's like,
Yeah, they know that
how
this
illegal is
training
it? Like,
is happening.
but it's Katniss needed to balance her morals that she believed she had with, like, staying alive, which I mean anybody in that situation has to, except for the careers because they're just there to win. But would it have ended up being the same thing? She got all excited when 2 people from the district could win, and she went and she found Peeta, and she was like, "Yay, we can win together." But
Mhm.
what would she have done with Rue? back when it was
Well, I
still
mean,
only
at
one
that
person
point
can win.
well, I think that's also
Would she
probably
and
why
Rue
it
have just
wasn't
camped
announced
out
until
until one of them died? Like,
I mean, but Rue was already gone when that was announced, so she didn't really even have to think
yeah.
about it.
Well, yeah, because
So,
Katniss was then back in her hiding, right?
yeah, and
She
it's
was just kind of
go
hiding
yeah,
until they forced her to fight.
yeah, and so going back to the careers and then jumping to the second quarter quell. So the second quarter quell when that takes place and they all come up on their little podiums, they're in the middle of the water. And for the most part, tributes don't know
That
how to swim.
arena
Is
is
insane.
amazing.
I know.
It's a clock. Like the fact that it's so the center is where the little cornucopia is, and there's little branches leading in into the water. And you don't know this when you watch the movie, but they all got floaties put on them because they can't swim. So the intention was not to immediately drown the tributes. Like they put little
Yes, because
floaties on them.
they knew that that would happen because so many just traditionally don't know how to swim. At the training
Yeah.
center that they go to, there isn't a pool. Realistically, the only ones who know how to swim are ones that are like near an ocean. I mean, so Annie Cresta,
Or
who
like have
is
lakes, I
Finnick's
guess.
yeah, but so Annie Cresta won her games because a dam broke
Annie Krista from
in the
District 4,
arena.
right?
Yes, yeah, Phoenix Love.
Phoenix Love.
Um, yes, she won because a dam broke and flooded the arena, and she was able to swim to safety. And so many tributes drowned because they don't know how to swim. Katniss knows how to swim because her father illegally taught her. In those woods beyond the fence, there was a lake. Yep. So
Other than that, isn't it like Joanna from District what is she, District 7? Whatever lumber is, right?
yes, 7. Yep.
She knows how to swim, but I imagine because where there's trees, there's water.
Yeah, she probably like had some lakes and everything.
They probably have to have like
Yeah. Um,
reservoirs.
but yeah, so many of them just don't know how to swim. Because like PETA doesn't know how to swim, and obviously in the books he also only has one leg. He has his
Yeah.
prosthetic, so he's really struggling. Finnick is the one who kind of gets him out and everything. Katniss can swim, but she's no Olympian.
Yeah.
She can swim enough to save herself.
Yeah.
And like that's kind of all her father really cared to be able to do. It's like you need to be able to just be able to protect yourself if you ever get in a situation around water.
Well, and it's like
Um,
that part is wild because you're in this situation where it's all these previous victors. So you're like, all of these people have already done this, so that's trauma. And then you've got people who are of a variety of ages, and then you've got Mags who's like 80 and she volunteered to take the place of someone. So you know she went
she
into
took
this to
Annie's spot.
die. Yeah.
She
So
took
you
Annie Cresta's spot. Yeah.
and then you find out that she had been Finnick's mentor. So like you know that she went into this situation to die. She went into this and she was like, I'm 80, I'll go die. So that way, one, Annie doesn't have to go in it. And two, maybe I can die before Finnick has to. Like, so, and then all of these people are friends because they're all
Mhm.
mentors. So they've all been around. Like they're not necessarily friends, friends. I mean, but you find out that some of them are in fact friends, friends, but they all know each other. So in any other Hunger Games, you only know the person maybe from your district. In the bigger districts, you might not even know the person from your district. And now
Yeah.
you're in this Hunger Games where you literally have met the only Katniss and Peeta haven't met everybody before. So it's like insane. So all of these people have either mentored each other or been mentoring with each other. And I can't even and it was just weird for me reading that even still then like district 1 and 2 people were still like, psychotic, but then you're like, "Wait, of course they are. They survived murdering a bunch of people." I mean, Haymitch is the only
I'm
one who had
yeah.
to survive twice the amount of people, but some of these people have probably killed their friends. now attached to maybe some of these other people that are in there. I don't think in the book it says whether anybody who was a tribute from those districts volunteer. I think the only volunteers are Mags and PETA, right? Everyone else just got reaped and wet, right?
I believe so. Because so with a lot within the Hunger Games, it's very common in the career districts for people to volunteer to go into like
So yeah, so they
your
would have
run
like
of the
volunteered in the
mill.
first place, but like probably not
Yes.
when they were second reaped.
Yeah, this one I don't really think I think those are the only 2 that we know.
But then how crazy that one district, it's a brother and a sister. That's
Yeah,
psychotic. Like, and then it made me think about like, has that ever happened naturally in a reaping?
it might have. I don't know.
If the Hunger Games had kept going and Gail's little sister had made it in, would she and one of the brothers have been reaped at the same time? Insane.
They could have been, but I also just find it so crazy that they do talk about, in the book, how like upset they all are that they're going through this again and that they don't think it's right and they think the rules should have been changed. We were promised a life of peace in a sense. I mean,
Yeah, they were told they
as
never
much
had to
as
go in the Hunger Games again.
yeah, and they're all kind of, and they have, in the movie there's, that moment of like the peaceful protest where they're all holding hands and everything. And then they get into the arena, but they're all very against it. So to me, it's incredibly disappointing when the games start and it's an immediate bloodbath.
Yeah.
It's like you guys were all so against this and everything, and you're going to stand in solidarity, and then
They get in
you
there and it's just the
just
Hunger Games again.
you get in there and you're like, all right, here we go
Yeah.
again. It's like, really, come on now. Why couldn't you have at least pretended
Yeah.
to care, and and maybe just seen if the game makers were going to do something themselves, because we know that they do in the background create all of these different things,
Yeah.
but they immediately were just like, nope, we're just gonna
Also,
go crazy.
now that we're like fully talking about Catching Fire had amazing quotes. If I had been reading it on a Kindle, I would have highlighted so many things. Like,
Catching Fire is my favorite of the original trilogy.
just simply remember who the real enemy is. Like, that
Mhm.
applies to life in general, but also at the same to just have that as your mantra, remember who the real enemy is. It's not the other people in the Hunger Games, it's the Capitol, right?
Yeah.
And then just when Katniss is talking to President Snow, and just so you know, I'm not remembering these quotes from my brain. I have them written down. Um, but Katniss is talking to Snow, and she's like, the the system of government must be very fragile if a handful of berries can bring it down. Like,
Yes.
and he just straight up looks her in the face, and he's like, "It is." Like, he's
Yeah.
like, "No, it is." Like,
Yeah. Oh, I know. It's just
her
it's so
relationship with
good.
President Snow is captivating because, like, until you read A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, you don't realize how important him coming to talk to her is. Like,
Yeah.
he's like, wait a second, like, you remind me of somebody that I used to know. Don't do
Yeah.
this. But he's so, like, just him being like, let's not lie to each other. And then they don't lie to each other. They're both in a position where they could just keep straight up lying to each other, and they don't. It's crazy how this guy who's running this whole nation, who President Snow, whatever, he's been president for like 50 years practically, and at least 25, according to my research. Um, that's not how long a person is president for. He's like the king, right? Like he's not the president.
Yeah. Well, it's longer than that because he's already president in Haymitch's games, which is the 25th.
Yeah, so that's why I said at least 25 years.
Yeah, so I think it's like 35. I did
Yeah.
some I looked on the Hunger Games wiki after,
Oh,
like,
okay.
and so it's at yeah, which I don't recommend you looking at
No,
until
I'm
you
not gonna do
finish
that. Yeah, I
Sunrise.
had to delete for
But
those of you listening at home, I had to stop watching TikTok because I got so many important things
yeah,
ruined for me. I was really trying to pay attention to the relationship between Katniss and Peeta, and I love it. I think
mhm,
it is beautiful. It is clearly a bond that they have formed through their trauma, shared trauma, but they need to sleep in a bed together so they can both not have nightmares. Like it's this is not an team Edward, team Jacob. This is not
no,
this is not like should Hermione have been with Ron or Harry. Peeta and Gale, it's not a choice. If anything, it
no,
could potentially be like a why choose, but like the way that her life comes up with Peeta after being in the Hunger Games and then after just the way that they have to come together to deal with their trauma, even in the victor's village, and then back on the trains going to the third quarter quell, there isn't a choice. If she's going to live
yeah,
the rest of her life feeling safe and comfortable, even if she and Peta were to never love each other in a romantic way, need to be together.
yes,
They no longer can live without each other. You can tell in the book that it like runs so deep. So I know that there's an author that's
yes,
like getting crap for being Team Gale and like whatever. Like there are some moments in the book where I'm like, this should be a why choose. Like she should get Gale also. She gets PETA for her emotional needs and she gets Gale for her physical needs. I don't know. Like I don't
yeah,
write the rules. It's a dystopian future, but like I can see it.
yeah.
I can
That's
see
why the
why
books are so
people
much more important because you do see so much more of that relationship in the books. Like,
her
yeah,
relationship with Gail is more important in a past way.
mhm,
It's a this is who Katniss was before the Hunger Games, and that I can see her wanting and needing to cling to that. But
you're
also,
also yeah,
even though Gale wasn't in the Hunger Games, he's not the same anymore either.
no.
Like no
Well,
one
you
is the
also
same.
yeah, you also, like, get a little bit more of reminders in the books too that these are teenagers.
Yeah.
They're children. There's a lot more just reminders of that in the books that I do sometimes wish were in the movies, but so there's a part in Catching Fire where, in one of their little tribute things, they get that, like, ointment to help with like the burns from the gas and
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Yeah.
And like they put it on their faces and then they like wake up PETA and be like boo to like scare him when they have all the stuff on their face. Like they're kids, like
Yeah.
still like they're even though they're in this horrible thing, at this point, they have this alliance, they have this kind of little family that they've formed that Katniss doesn't know the bond, how strong that bond is because she
Yeah.
wasn't included in the conversations. There is still that childlike wonder in them, which I'm really glad that Suzanne put in the books because
Yeah.
it really does
Well, I
remind
mean,
you
even
they're
Finnick, like you're like,
children.
oh, he won 10 years ago. Okay, he's 24. He's not
Yeah.
50. He didn't win 10 years
No,
ago
he's
at
still
40.
young.
He won 10 years ago as a child. He was 14. Like,
And he was forced to grow up way too fast and now he's,
oh my
in this
God.
situation when, he's with some younger people who they understand what he's been through in a different way because they went through the games but they haven't been through the life of a victor the way he has, but they understand him and they're
Yeah.
like able to bring out like a different side of him, and I think that bond is so special.
It's so sad. In the movies, it's alluded to. I don't remember if it's Catching Fire or the first Mockingjay when like they kind of in the movies they just kind of drop hints about what was happening to Finnick. But in the book, you
Yeah.
find out that he was basically a hooker.
Yeah.
He was just
He was
getting
just passed
pimped out.
around.
And when you
Yeah.
you look at, Sam Claflin playing him and he's gorgeous and you're like, I get it. That's why he would be a hooker. But then when you remember, he won at 14. So
Yeah.
at 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, he's sleeping with these who knows how old rich people in the capital and like, at first for money, but then for secrets. So smart, the secrets.
And they talk about how, like, Mags, practically raised him. We don't know what happened to his family.
Yeah.
Um, and we do know, that like, Joanna's family is gone, like, presumably as a punishment to her or
Yeah.
whatever from, like, it doesn't sound like that they just
And with
died
her,
of natural causes.
yeah, and with her big attitude, was she also pimped out? It couldn't possibly have just been Finnick. It had to have been other people too. Like,
Was she also speaking out, like, on the Victor's tour kind of the way Katniss did and got punished? Because she's
yeah.
very vocal. Was she punished for being vocal? I just do need to say now, we've been talking about just the first 2 books for 2 hours. I think we might need to do I think
This
since
is gonna be
looking at
multiple
the
episodes.
time, this is gonna have to be multiple episodes because we've been all over the place, so I
Yeah.
apologize to everybody. This is how we have conversations in real life.
This is gonna be an
We jump all over
impossible
the place.
episode for me to edit.
Yes, if we need to go back and, like, redo some things, I think we need to do a separate episode
Yeah.
for Mockingjay.
We might have to, yeah.
So,
They
because
split the
I'm
movie
it's
into 2
not
parts. We can give it its own episode.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're gonna need to do that because there's so much in this book. I think we're gonna need to give it its own episode, and then we will have a separate episode on the prequels. We'll probably be able to get through both prequels
We can put those together,
in
especially
one
because 'cause they've got a
episode.
lot
Yeah,
that I would like to connect
that
to each other.
overlaps.
Yeah.
Yeah, they connect very well. And then at the end of that, we'll just give our overall screaming recommendations of these books to all of you.
Hold on, we have to do the Wheel of Fun.
Okay.
We have to do the Wheel of Fun. So, for Hunger Games and Catching Fire. So, it says summarize backward. We have to start at the end of Catching Fire and summarize backward to the beginning of the Hunger Games.
So this a young a 17-year-old girl wakes up to be told that her home is gone because she shot an arrow in an arena built to kill her for the second time because they did not kill her the first time she was in an arena.
Where she was tricked into almost killing her future best friend after having no, summarize it backwards. It was like we're just like telling it backwards. This is hard.
I know, that's I don't summarize
No,
backwards.
okay, so I'm gonna summarize it backwards like as if the end was the beginning. So Katniss Everdeen wakes up to find out that her home is completely destroyed and she's on a hovercraft going to a new one. Then she blows up an arena with an arrow after assuming that someone was trying to kill her who wasn't. Then she strings a line of wire. She and her friends string a line of wire from a tree to a beach. Then they are traveling around a clock-like arena, eating fish and having a good time. And she kisses for real her lover for the first time, whereas and then later in her story, the kisses will all be fake. This is weird. I don't like it that way either. Um, then she does some training for an event. Then she goes on a tour of victory for an event she has yet to compete in.
Yeah, she goes on a preemptive tour because yeah, this is a hard one to summarize backwards, especially because it's 2 books.
So, yeah, does summarizing backwards mean you just tell the events backwards, or do you summarize it like as if it happened backwards?
I mean, I guess we could even say that, a 17-year-old girl wakes up from a coma and is told this fantastical story about how her home and the country has gone to shit. I don't know. So, like,
It
oh,
ends with her sister getting her name called to be murdered, and she volunteers as tribute, and then goes hunting with her best friend.
yeah, I don't know, it's a weird one to summarize.
Yeah.
It's just it's weird enough to summarize it
In general.
normal. Happy Hunger Games, everybody,
And may the
and
odds
may the
be ever
odds
in your
be
favor.
ever in your favor. So,
Bye.
oh goodness.